All right. So we were talking about the challenges of MSPs now. So just can you tell us about what the correlation you see of this, mainframe to PC, and from now this PC to cloud era. So what's the correlation now? What's the pattern?
Okay, right. So the patterns I see is we basically focus in three areas. We have our managed services business, and about 8 years ago, we kind of moved from the break-fix traditional VAR model to the MSP, and that's been pretty good because it's very predictable. You got to make sure your contracts are right. You don't over-deliver the service. Make sure things that are extras. But our core business is really the managed services. Our second business is managed security services,
Okay.
which we see as the biggest growth area, and the third is consulting. So, I would call myself a visionary. That's one of my strengths, and I try to look down the road. So the correlation I see between what happened from the PC to the mini computer is really the same thing that's happening right now with the PC and server into the cloud. So instead of selling these, $30,000 exchange server upgrades, we're moving clients into like Microsoft 365 and our intermediate hosted email, where you're not going to get that $30,000 project. It may be a smaller project of labor, and then a few $100s a month as a recurring service. So it's, again, kind of this game changer. The only problem is, before we were on the suite side, taking out the mini computers, but as an MSP, we're kind of on the wrong side right now. We have to get from on this side, which is the kind of the sweet spot as we see it, servers and projects, over to the cloud side. And that's really, I think, the challenge for MSPs today is how are we going to make money going forward on the other side.
But you know what? I was wondering that what you said before, that if you are, follow the problems and issues of your clients, you are always going to win. And my question is, where do you see the value can be created by someone, which is not happening now? Because it's probably, as an MSPs, we have to look out of side the box some kind of way and see what the value can be created, and be the first to tackle these opportunities.
Right. So the way we're approaching it is, and actually there's a very good article in Inc. magazine this month, if anybody's read it. It was basically Michael Dell, who actually has the same challenge. He had to come out of, basically retirement and go into basically become an entrepreneur again. And what he said is, we knew we had a change, but what is it? And about 2 years ago, we just listened very closely to our clients. We have about 300 clients. A lot of them are in the medical space, financial space, legal space. And we started listening to what they wanted, and we kept hearing more and more about compliance. And they were concerned about audits and compliance and security. So we listened very closely, and we built a solution around security and compliance. And when there's something new in the industry that's not really very competitive, you're going to get a higher margin. So when we go in and meet with a client today, we're talking about where they're heading, providing them a kind of a hybrid solution, moving things into the cloud where it makes sense, even though we're letting go of revenue streams, keeping things in-house where it makes sense as far as servers. But then we're also having this conversation we never had before about security and compliance and driving sales and services in around that, which is kind of new, which is a high revenue position. So together, we're back to the same revenue, even though we're letting go of some of these projects.
It's interesting. I just fired up the poll, and 56% of the attendees already answered that. And I was asking the question that where are the strategies you are considering? Because now we have lots of strategies which we are hearing from different places. So what to do now? So there is like a cloud broker model, sell application services, build private cloud of basically based on your resources, being the general IT trusted advisor, and resell the implement specific applications. So I just closed this poll, and I would like to ask you that what do you think was the most popular of the four, if you remember that?
I didn't.
All right, sorry about
More
that.
time.
But 100% of the audience says their strategy is being the general IT trusted advisor. So I think that's a good point here. Is that what that means? What the value we can create as a trusted advisor
Okay,
now?
so right. So to me, by being the general IT advisor, the reason I've been able to keep this business going for 19 years and get stronger every year, it's because as other MSPs out there, you have to align yourself with the client. As long as you align yourself with the client and you're basically very disciplined about what clients you bring, what vendors you bring in, and only bring in these A vendors and build these customized solutions or tailored solutions for your client, you're always going to have a successful business. So just like the independent insurance agent is kind of customizing insurance policies and has different policies for different solutions, we have to keep kind of working with our clients, understanding their business needs. No longer a product service, it's about services and about their business, and delivering bundled solutions that really can't be shopped on the internet, that are kind of bundled, that are a little bit more complex and add value. And that's how we're adding value. So it's good bundles. It's talking about business and how we're going to improve business processes, and it's delivering on that. That's how you add value going forward.
Right. I was reading an article just yesterday from one of the biggest, vendor was saying, based on their research or something like that for MSPs and IT service providers, that the future is so bright. Everything is really shiny, everything is great, the good market is growing, everything like that. But somehow, in the other hand, I see our two MSPs, that what's going on there, and we see lots of other MSPs, and I don't really share this idea or share this stuff. And I'm hearing that all the time, that this market is so great. I think the same, it's great, but it's not that easy to make and leave this opportunity. How do you see that? What could be the challenges for us?
Right. So the generic MSP, as I see it, for us, it's becoming more generic, where there's more competitors and there's more price pressure. So if you basically have the box of, being generic of MSP, you have to work yourself outside that box. So for instance, what we're doing specifically is we have a lot of medical clients. So in our medical clients, we're doing the actual managed services at kind of a competitive rate, and then we're actually adding, different security and compliance offerings at a little bit higher rate, but together that solution is a higher value. Most of the other MSPs out there aren't really talking security and compliance, and so if they come in and try to compete, the practice is going to say, well, can you do this and this, security and compliance, and they say no. It automatically discredits them. So I think as a generalist IT solution provider, you have to partner going forward. You can't know it all. So you have to partner with really strategic partners, and again, you be the trusted advisors for the client. You focus on your core business deliveries that you have around you and your people, and then you bring in partners to actually add those value-added services. And you got to keep looking for new partners and looking for new avenues and opportunities, so your deliverable and value into your customer is greater and greater. So you got to keep constantly pushing yourself to get out of the commodity and just the general IT network.
Exactly, and I see a big flaw in lots of pricing model MSPs are using, because that was a notion which you were mentioning, that okay, you have to move forward, you have this generic service offering around technology and infrastructure, then you see and feel the pain of the problem, so the clients, and you add more value added services like a little bit virtual CIO, a little bit planning, a little bit IT strategy, things like that. And at the end of the day, you are bundling lots of services, but you still sell it as a managed service business. And the problem is, in our experience, that the people shopping around managed services, and they see the price, but they don't get what the additional value you get. So the pricing should be what you said, having your little box, price it in a competitive price, and get rid of this whole value added services and put it in a different package to be able to recreate yourself.
Right, packaging is really key. Yeah, so the way the way we've always sold managed services, the way we've always sold it is we get a lot of referrals. People have unhappy with their IT company. They'll call us. We'll go out. We'll give them 3 references. They're glowing references. We'll give them a proposal, and they usually go with us. There's very little selling to do. It's more of you show up, you go through a process, you show them what you can do, and you take over the managed services. Whether you do it by device or by user is really up to you. There is a creep that's happening where people will go out to Best Buy and buy 12 tablets and call you up to hook them up, and they want everything included. So there is some scope creep that's happening within the managed services. But I think the MSP of the future really has to be a challenger. And one of the books you could read is The Challenger Sale. It teaches you to go out and actually be the educator and the teacher. We have to become much more proficient at sales, at marketing, and just being a teacher. So when we go out and talk about compliance, we have to explain to them why compliance is so important, the fines that could happen if you don't meet compliance, what's happening to other companies in your area that had breaches or had security hacks. So it's about education and teaching, and when you do that, that's how you create the value, and then they actually want to have that.
It's interesting. I just fired up the poll again about the challenges about selling IT security solutions. We are going to go to this way that what I was thinking when I was talking to you is that we have the managed service provider in Calgary. We just started, like we have 2-3 people, and we are not planning to hiring technical guys. So my observation was, or what I was looking for, is that always some partner who can do something for us, because I don't want to learn security, for example. I can sell security, or let's say we can sell security better than we are able to execute those stuff. And what you said before, that being a generic provider, that means that you are seeing everything around the IT and everything around the people problem, and you try to fit the problem to some solution. And in my opinion, is like an MSP2 practitioner, I think the biggest value for me is to sell and put security in their place. This is my role. And then to deliver that service is a totally different mindset, totally different discipline, totally different stuff. So just can you explain your experience around this area?
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, we decided we were going to be really focused on the security and compliance. And what we realized was it really is a 3-step process. So we do what's called assess, then we address, and then we maintain. So the first step is the assessment. We go in and, just like, a doctor who has to do a scan or an MRI has to actually look at the patient and see exactly what the problem is. And they really can't offer a course of action until they kind of do the scan or the actual test up front. So the assess is the risk assessment. Okay. Now, if you look at every single compliance, whether it's HIPAA, FINRA, PCI, the list goes on, the common theme is you have to have a risk assessment. So by doing a risk assessment, a penetration test, an internal scan, and maybe a series of questions around compliance, by doing a good job of that risk assessment, that will give you the gaps and show you the blind spots that you can then present to your customer, kind of the projects and solutions they need, and actually to button things up, tighten things up, and fill the gaps of security and compliance. And once you do that, you kind of have a baseline, then you go into the managed services and a recurring revenue. And usually that recurring revenue can go on top of a managed services, or it could be separate. And we're actually using security and compliance as a door opener, because it's kind of tough for us to go and say, hey, we're a better MSP than somebody else. When we say, look, we want to tackle security and compliance, it's also a good door opener. So the way we do it is we do the assess, which is the risk assessment, the address, which are the projects and solutions, and then the maintain, which is the monthly reoccurring revenue, which has to do with SIM and some other technologies that we put in place that monitor 24/7 and look for these alerts and breaches. And if the auditor comes in, they're ready to actually produce reports. So it's really a full service end-to-end. What we noticed in the marketplace was most of these companies like Trend, AVG, even HP and Cisco, they're trying to solve security with a single product. Forget it. I mean, if you put in a good firewall, it's not going to protect a malware intrusion. The other problem we saw was that the software out there, if you have a malware on your PC and you get a crypto locker virus and you lock down all the files on your server, there's no correlation between the two. There's no intelligence saying what happens to this device if something happens to that device. So the opportunity that we see is for MSPs to provide a total end-to-end solution to their clients around security and compliance. It is high-margin business. You have to go out and teach it and explain it, but if you do, it's clear sailing going forward. Very little competitive and very high margins.
And then when I want to go back to this Challenger sale, so just tell the story, because I was dancing around this book Challenger sale, and it was like, okay, I have to, it's always, if you read a sales book, it's always, bet it's like bullshit or it's like something. And when I was speaking with you like 2 weeks ago, he said, hey Dinesh, you haven't read it, because everything you do is kind of what I have in the Challenger sale. I was, I know, and I started after that, and that's like just blew my mind, because that's exactly what you are talking about. And why I get it, because based on the poll, the people said that either I don't have a process for selling security in general, or I have challenges convincing people to invest in security. And this is the two thing which is nothing about this, how you deliver the services. It's about teaching, tailoring, and transition, reframe the client in some way that in a business context, right, why it needs.
Right, good question. So we found, selling security, it didn't just happen overnight, and we didn't become good at it overnight. But there's certain triggers that we are finding that that make clients want to have security and or compliance. So, for example, like in 1970, when you bought a car, you didn't have a seatbelt. So basically, there was no security. So as time went on, you've got a seatbelt, now you have airbags, you have anti-lock brakes. When you do an upgrade for a client, that's a great time to build security in. And they'll buy it because you're explaining to them and teaching them why they need it. It isn't like here, get a SIM, get encrypted texting, get, encrypted email. You're explaining why and tying it to compliance and how we're going to protect your business. And it's all about uptime. People don't want to be down for more than 5 seconds, and you know that. So it's about security, not getting fined, doing the right thing, reputation management. But we like to sell security when we're doing upgrades because we can bundle it in. If somebody has an audit or going to be audit for pre-audit or post-audit, that's a good time to sell security. If they're just worried about an audit, or they just had an audit, that's a very good time to sell security. If they had any kind of breach, if they had, like our help desk is trained that if somebody has a major virus or some kind of malware, they're trained to tell the salespeople that, hey, go talk to them about a more advanced kind of security 1.0. We need to upgrade them to security 2.0.
I'm sorry, what do you mean about security 1.0 and security 2.0? What's the difference?
Okay, so what we found is that most of the world out there right now is at security 1.0. And the word they use is basic hygiene. But when I say that word, people go, oh, that's a terrible word. It sounds like puberty or something. But basic hygiene is when you have virus scanning, a basic firewall, and malware, and kind of a rudimentary kind of basic security solution, which is just not going to do it today. So security 2.0 is going to the next level. It's a SIM, which is a security information event manager, which goes around the whole entire system, pulls from all the logs, runs rules against it, and can give you all kinds of alerts and can watch your system 24/7. It's putting the right encryption in, whether it's on the PC, on a laptop, mobile devices. It goes on and on and on, but there's so many opportunities that you could sell to your clients and support around the security 2.0, which is a much more advanced security. And again, a lot of your clients, what you don't realize is you're the trusted advisor. And they're just going to listen to you because you're the advisor. So I think you underestimate the power that you
Exactly.
have into these customers. And if you take your time with them and spend more time road mapping them and just chunking it down and becoming a teacher, I just really spend the time and teaching, doing some webinars, going out and showing them PowerPoints. But you are the teacher. I think they're going to buy the majority of the solutions that you put together, especially when you take the time to teach them and it's really thought through and that you're really concerned about their business. And I think it's not just security and compliance. I think it's things you have to take to your customers in a proactive way as the trusted advisor and explain and teach. And then to me, that's really the future, because the further we go down this road, the more managed security is going to move to the cloud, and things are going to become more and more commoditized on the general basis around email, file, word processing. Those things are going to become generic. Or we'll make a few dollars from them and have some support. We have to challenge ourselves to go outside that box and deliver more and more business value.
In my opinion, when we are doing this kind of MSP2 type of sales method, it's lots of things about grabbing the imagination of the CEO. It's like, and the most valuable stuff you can do is just telling a story. Telling a story, grab the imagination, grab the attention, and have some, something behind. And can you just tell us your best story? You are, because if you tell a story, we can, learn it and we can rephrase it, but it's easier to grab the image. How you do that for like a 50 people company, C-level? I'm the CEO of the 50 people company. Just sell me something.
All right, so I'll tell you a story. So as we've been doing managed services all these years, we also used to do a lot of security. We were called in to all these breaches, like one-offs. We had a breach here, a breach there. The biggest breach I ever had was a large medical practice whereby they called us as a referral, and what happened was they had lost all their data. They weren't sure what happened. They came in one day, 100 users on a giant EMR, and they had lost all their data. Well, the company restored them after about a week. They got it all back up and running, and lo and behold, 2 weeks later, all the data was gone again. And they basically lost complete confidence in their EMR. They were upset with their EMR company, and they went back to a manual system. So after a couple weeks of that, they found out about us. We came in, and we said, we don't even know where to start. It was like recreating a bomb scene because all the logs were gone. So what we had to do was kind of go back to like a bomb scene and start pulling the logs off of all these little bits of, like, the compact Insight Manager had logs. We traced it back and kept tracing it for about 4 weeks. Meanwhile, they had to go back to a manual system. At the end of 8 weeks, we realized that it was an inside job where they had an IT person who was upset with the boss and got fired, and he went rogue and came back and damaged this business. It took weeks for us to figure this out. It was a hardship to the practice, and it was really a very, very difficult time for them. We came in and took over the IT. We put in basically a SIM, and we can watch any changes minute to minute. So if we'd have had a SIM in place, we'd have been able to tell in about 30 minutes exactly who touched what and when they logged in, what files were changed, instead of having to go through this 2-month kind of forensics work. So the whole key now is taking everything we learned in the whole managed services about being proactive and moving that into security and being super proactive so we can head off problems before they happen. So that's just one story, but we have another practice that got hacked and lost all their data, had to send it out to a clean room. The list goes on and on. Over the years, we probably have 6 or 7 calls a year from the outside that we're kind of known for, and that's kind of how we got into this this security and compliance. And then in the last few weeks, we've actually developed this managed services security offering that now you can offer to your clients that we've actually put together. So that's how that works.
That's a pretty nice story. And what I was wondering is that, there is an old thinking in MSP that, we have to do everything by our own. And, what I see in the other fence of the or other part of the fence, when you have this kind of business model, when you are the trusted advisor, that means you have to connect the dots, you have to connect the problems to a solution and manage those stuff. And what I seem fascinating that you are an MSP, but you developed something for other MSPs as well to can access to this stuff, because that's how we do that. It's really interesting because you know what, we do this reframing stuff, but we have MSPs like Brian doesn't have an MSP, but they are doing Brigade, and lots of MSPs try to create something around their expertise and spin it of the community. And I'm really interested how you do that and how you what's behind that, because in this marketplace model I see that I don't want to do security. I want to learn how you sell it, get some kind of processes, and just make sure that someone is behind me and making that, and I can make the recurring service revenue because I have the client touch.
Right. So we really focus on the client and really understanding our clients. And again, we have 300 clients in multiple verticals. Our largest vertical is medical, then it's probably legal, financial, and real estate. They all have very different needs. Over the years, I've had to take a really good look at my staff and say, what are they good at and what are they not good at? So you have to look at yourself and your staff and decide what you're good at and what you're not good at. The things that you're good at and can really do a good job on, I would call that your core business.
Okay.
And that is the products that you're going to deliver yourself, and that's your core. The things outside of that are things you want to bring in, A partners. So like security and compliance, you could sell that all day long and we can help you sell it. We could be your partner for that. I bring in a partner for Salesforce. I don't have anybody on staff who's really good at CRM, but a lot of my clients need CRM, so I bring in a partner for Salesforce. We don't do in-house cabling. It's either feast or famine, so I have really good partners that I bring in for cabling. So the MSP of the future, to me, is going to have more and more strategic partners, and they better be good, because they're representing you, and if they fall down, it's a red reflection on you. But I clearly see there's some things you'll just refer out, and some things you'll try to keep in-house and become like the primary contractor, general contractor, and sub things out. We don't do web development, but sometimes because a client needs it, we'll actually become the prime and sub that out. So to me, that's the future. And because every client needs something a little bit different, I think the partnerships and strategic partnerships are going to become more and more important going forward.
Yeah, it's exactly. So how we call that, it's like a marketplace part of the business model. That means you create these kind of strategic partnerships. You first of all, you create your strategy about partnerships. What areas you want to give your services, and what areas you see you are able to sell better or have a client need, and you are able to create to your surrounding. It's what you said. Salesforce is a really good example, because Salesforce is a SaaS-based CRM solution. We are having partnership with HubSpot, which is an inbound marketing tool. We have with Enphase, which is like a file management system. So that's how I see that the more partner we have, the better possibility we have for new clients to grab something. And even now we are able to go into the places when there are already an MSP. That means, for example, with your thinking is that creating an offering and specialty in security, that means you can go to a place when generally you are not able to go, because there is a quite okay MSP in the client side. But if you are able to create this kind of surrounding services, it's basically you don't have any obstacle in that area. How do you see that? Because that's marketplace model I think it's like something which can crack the code of how to move forward as a managed service provider.
Right. So I think the first thing is to kind of look at your customer base, and we try to roadmap our clients a couple of times a year. And we look at all the products and services that you could possibly sell into that space. We'd like to be your partner for security and compliance. We have a program for referral and also for reseller. And you could plug in our security and compliance and be up to speed in 30 days. It took us 2 years to learn all these ins and outs of compliances. You could be up and running in 30 days. So it's really identifying your client's needs and then partnering with companies like ourselves and other specialists where they can help you and kind of leverage your support. So you want to maximize what you can do in your existing customer base because you're the trusted advisor, and that's the easiest first step, as you all know. But then the second thing is you can use things like these specialty items, like compliance or security or Salesforce or web development if you have a good partner, to get wedge into the door. Because what's going to happen is, I think what's going to happen, again, I don't really know exactly, but we're going to have to become better at sales and marketing, because as things move to the cloud, there's a possibility that we're going to have less revenue per client. That's the bad news, right? The good news is we can go out and get more clients. So, and there's less work to do. So it's going to change, and I think becoming good at sales and marketing is going to be key to our future. But if you can maximize revenue in your clients and have a good wedge to bring in new clients, not just a generic message, to me that's really the future.
I had a poll just a couple of minutes ago, and the most questions about price and package IT security solutions. So I think it's a kind of big thing, but can we just try to figure out what's the best way to package it first of all, and how to bundle those stuff to the traditional managed services? Because I think that's a big issue. People have to grab it really, practically. That we know compliance, things like that. How's it going, right? But how to frame it to the client based on project, or for the assessment.
Okay. So the way we do, so the way we price it is we do a basic assessment. So depending on the type of practice, we do some for just security and some security and compliance. But based on the size of the client, if it's a small, single server with 10 users, we might do a lot of the assessment up front at a very low cost, penetration test and a scan for, very low cost, or even won't charge them. As they get larger, a big compliance and security assessment could be as high as $5,000 to $7,000. And sometimes we'll give them part of that money back toward whatever they buy in the future. So that gives them incentive to keep moving forward. The projects, which is a second piece, it could be a lot of things. It could be upgrading servers that are not supported anymore by Microsoft and can't be patched. It could be firewall hardening, or it could be an upgrade of a firewall that's not being supported anymore. You really don't know until you do this assessment. It could be you need better malware or better managed malware. It could be we're seeing a lot of the doctors like this encrypted texting, which is $6 a month, and it just revolutionizes their workflow. And the doctors really like that. It's all encrypted. You get the SIM at the end on top of everything, kind of managing. A SIM could be anywhere from $250 a month to we were working on a project with several $1,000s a month. The SIM comes out to me to be that recurring model product with all-in kind of monitoring around these other products. So each client's going to be a little different based on what they are. We've been in systems where we do the risk assessment and they need to upgrade multiple servers, and they had XP machines, had to replace all those. You just do it project by project and tower project by project. The assessment drives a lot of business, I can just tell you that. And the recurring model at the end, we're not getting a lot of pushback, because once people see that they have these problems, they're going to keep going. It's very rare. It's about 90% success rate moving forward if people bite off on the actual assessment. Sorry,
Steve, just because what I see the same patterns in this MSP2 sales stuff. It's the same assessment, creating the action plan, and creating the maintenance portion. When you said 90%, in our experience, 90% is the closure ratio if you have the assessment. So winning the deal is not closing the deal. Winning the deal is to make them complete this assessment. So this is the biggest
Right.
stuff. And tell us, please,
Just like a
how to do
doctor
it.
can't do the doctor can't put a cast on somebody's leg unless they do the x-ray. You've got to be good at the risk assessment, because the risk assessment is the key to opening everything else up. And as part of partnering with us, we'll actually provide that risk assessment. All the tools we have are remote. We can do the penetration tests. We can do the internal scans. We can do the questionnaires. You can do some of it if you like to do it yourself. You can lean on us to do some of the heavy lifting. It's really up to you, and we'll walk you through the whole process with your client and make it super easy. But you're right. Once you do the risk assessment, and really everything we learned here was everything we learned from managed services. Everything we really do today is assess, address, and maintain. Whether it's managed services or it's security, that's really what we're doing.
I would like to challenge you. I'm not grabbing this topic, or I'm not releasing this topic. So the big thing here, Steve, is how to sell the risk assessment. When you are able to sell the risk assessment, then your deal is done. That's the most crucial element, how you sell the risk. It probably seems to be too obvious or something, but then people are, having this type of knowledge. Okay, I know assessment means you show me what I should buy, because that's the way so many people are selling their services. But how to get the compelling reason to let you into the risk assessment, and what's the right mindset you have to put to the CEO to take it really seriously?
Okay. So what's working for us in our existing customer base is the first place I would go, and I would find out if any of your clients have compliance issues. And compliances are, there's from government contractors to medical to financial, there's so many different compliances that these customers have. With the new business associate agreement, which is the omnibus rule, it's not just medical practices, but anybody that does work with the medical practice attached to the medical record. Law firms have to have compliance, even though they don't have a governing body over them as a governing body. If they have clients that are financial or medical, now they're obligated to have compliance. And the same thing with accounting firms, and list goes on and on. So we could teach you what we've learned over 2 years of what exactly your portfolio of clients have as far as compliance. In every single compliance, you must have a risk assessment in order to follow the law, or you could have breaches and fines. So selling that risk assessment, once you understand compliance, is really the key. There's also NIST rules and SANS, different kind of security standards that are out there that also say you have to have a risk assessment. So being able to really teach and drum in why you have to have a risk assessment by law in most cases, and you focus on the risk assessment, everything else really takes care of itself. Does that help you?
It's helped tremendously, because how I see this stuff in our practice, or how we tried, and what was our experience on that you are winning this deal when you grab the attention, the imagination of the CEO. So that's why I usually try to tell stories about, in that type of business, what could cause some problem, because it's not a technical stuff. It's something you can tell the story why you need. It's even if you have a compliance, that's really, really, really important, because it's like a cookie cutting. If you have a compliance, you have to do it. But if you're not, and you want to sell yourself first, and why you would be the best candidate for that, so that's I try to crack the code, because that can help the people to carry this conversation. And you know what? This is the most important reframing moment, because you reframe your clients about what you are doing and what you can help on that. And if you start it in a business sense, and not talking about, breaches and viruses and technical stuff, you are talking about the business stuff, and try to grab their vision, what the benefit and how they can get a better company or something like that, then everything is changing. You do the whole same risk assessment project, everything, but how they can change their mind, who you are, how you can rebrand yourself from traditionally MSP to a real trusted
Right.
advisor. So that's,
And
I
it
try to
takes a
crack
little
this
time.
code.
Yeah. That's really it. But again, the U.S. government's doing a lot of the marketing for us. There isn't a day it goes by that they're not talking about, compliance and security breaches. The government's really helping us do the marketing, and Target and all these different breaches every single day you see in CNN and news. The word's out there. It's almost like the marketing's being done for us. You just have to have a good package, show up to your clients and teach them what they need, and really they just buy it. It's really that simple. The new clients, it gives us a door opener. While we're talking to new clients and saying, look, we want to talk to you about security and compliance, it is easier to talk, and you need that door opener to wedge in and not just say I'm a better MSP. It is difficult saying how our MSP is different than somebody else's MSP, and that's somewhat of a challenge in and of itself. We deliver a lot of services. We have IT managers. We do a lot of road mapping. But, when we talk to a client, it's like we already got somebody and it's going okay. So it's hard for us to show how our MSP is better than their MSP, and that's a tough conversation to have. So I really think whether it's security and compliance or something else, you need that special wedge to get in the door that they're not getting right now. And for us, we just happen to pick the security and compliance, and we're being very successful with it.
Can you just, because, and folks, you have the question section, and you are able to ask questions, and we are going to carry these questions. We had one that Seth asking that what would be an example of a risk assessment door opener for a new prospect client?
Okay. So, I have to hypothetically think out the client, but let's say it's a money manager, a wealth manager. So a wealth manager could have, 3 servers and 25 workstations, and they're, governed by the SEC, FINRA, and, a couple others. So, what I would do is go on their website. I'd look at what business they're in. I would know a little bit about what types of services they offer, and then I would tie that to the compliance. I would do my research up front, then basically make the phone call or make the contact in and talk about, where they're at right now. Have they already had a risk assessment? Tell me about your risk assessment. Was it in writing? Who did the risk assessment? If they say my IT guy did it, you could say, well, look, if your in-house IT guy did it, is that really an independent? There's different things you can say. So it might be good to have an outside eye take a look to see where your blind spots are. And if, we look at it and everything's great, your IT guy is great. We could look at it and find a bunch of gaps and kind of a second opinion. So that's one way to do it. So there's lots of different techniques that we use to position ourselves to be able to be the trusted advisor and expert in security and compliance to get them to do that first risk assessment. In some cases, we'll just do a penetration test. What we're finding is the penetration test doesn't take that long, and if we've done dozens of penetration tests, and what we're finding is people keep opening ports over the years when they need something new, but never close the port. So we have clients we're looking at that have port 110 open from pop mail they had 10 years ago. So, these firewalls are wide open, and no one's ever gone to close them up. So, you have to get in and let them give you something to analyze. And once you can analyze, then you can come back with your expertise and why, we think it's important. I was just at a client. This is kind of interesting. This is a really good story. Just at a client I was recommended in for security and compliance. Somebody recommended a very expensive email encrypted solution for, it was $40,000. And they said, well, can you go out and talk to them and see if it's the right solution? I went out and looked at it, and they totally wrong solution. It was an overkill for what they needed. And then I started talking about security and compliance, and they were basically ready to throw their existing IT company out because they never told them about all the things they should have and all their compliances. They were just a general IT company, and they're like, well, why didn't they tell me all these things? So they're actually in the process of moving them out and moving us in to do the security compliance and the managed services. So it's a great backdoor entry into these practices. And I really believe if you're not proactively road mapping and telling your clients about all these different services, somebody else is going to do it. So you might as well be proactive and go to the market and provide these services.
That's awesome. And we had a question about, so get the idea that you can outsource one part of this stuff, but what's the practical version of that? One thing in my story, it was interesting observation to myself, and I don't know, you can share it, this same notion or not. When I was saying to the client like this kind of reframing process or the ITCQ question or things like that, which we invented, that, this is our invention and we did it, most of the client wasn't really optimistic about that. It's telling a lot of things about how they see us. But when I was saying, that's an international stuff with benchmark and we are using it to assess you, that was, okay, that's great. So, it's really interesting when you are doing something inside, it's a credibility is what's the level, and if you grab something, it could be much credible. So in this case, my question is about how we can, or if you have this type of service, what the frame can be, that if we are selling something outside of our traditional scope, how we can frame it. Because that's the big question, is how we separate this type of service from our service in marketing,
okay, so,
in sales, and in delivery.
Yeah. All right, so I've spent a lot of time on this subject because I'm really in the same boat as everybody else. Yeah. I'm an MSP. I just decided to go into the security and compliance and really become an expert at it, and now offer it to other MSPs around the country. I think what you have to realize is most of your clients, and this is a hard thing to actually grasp, but it's really true, if you present it properly, they'll buy anything from you. You're the local guy or gal, whatever. You're the local MSP. They trust you. They're going to listen to you, and you just got to go in with an organized approach. If you go in and say, look, I really care about your business, which I know you do, and I want to take care of you, and, there's all these security and breaches out there, as you know about, and maybe show them and talk about things that they've already heard about somebody else or they've heard about Target. And then you show them a solution of assess, address, and maintain, and then, they're going to listen to you. I think you, as an MSP and a trusted advisor, I underestimate myself sometimes. But most of our clients want to run their business, not have to worry about IT, and just be taken care of. So once you're comfortable with the solution, you just convey that to the client, and they're going to be comfortable with it as well. I really think you have to be confident in your own abilities to be able to provide additional solutions and services as your clients need them. And you got to partner with the right companies to get A vendors. But I would just say don't underestimate your leverage that you have as a trusted advisor.
Yeah, it's just, I could talk with hours with you, because the big thing I see, usually managed services underestimate their capacity to give advice. They are thinking, okay, I'm credible on the IT nuts and bolts, but usually they are, every managed service people by nature, a bit geek. What means? Geeks always spread the ideas. Who is spreading the idea? Who is an advisor? Who is trusted? So that's I see by nature, every MSP is by nature a trusted advisor. And how you can leverage your skills or develop your skills or choose right business models and choose right clients and choose lots of decisions you have to make down the road to be able to leverage and open up your potential. And I think that's the greatest thing which you can, or everybody can find themselves.
Right. So you have to, we're used to learning deeper and deeper, learning more about servers and operating systems, kind of a linear learning, and it kind of vertical. Now we have to kind of go horizontal. And, that's really the key, I think, going forward, is moving more horizontal. And it's a little uncomfortable at first, but as you keep doing it, it gets more and more comfortable. And, you'll be more of a management company. I really feel, managed services is going to become a management company. I mean, the people that we're hiring now, have management skills that are managing our client accounts more than technical skills. We almost have a 50-50 blend of managers to technical skills. 6 years ago, we had mostly all technical skills. But, we also have to shift around this management. And, as the market's changing, you have to move or else you become, extinct like the mini computer. And you have to see it coming. You have to look down the road 2 and 3 years, and it takes time to develop these new services. And you don't want to be basically looking, and all of a sudden, your revenue stream's gone because it's all in the cloud. So, if I was making a recommendation, I would say every MSP has to get good at sales and marketing. I know we were never good at sales and marketing. We waited for referrals. We had tons of referrals coming in, and we didn't have to become good at sales and marketing. We have 300 clients, and if our revenue streams go way down, we have to get 600 clients, right, for the same revenue stream 5 years from now if everything goes to the cloud, just hypothetically. I think it's going to be a hybrid environment, but just if it did happen in 5 years. So I think you have to become good at sales and marketing, and I think the type of selling, which is solution selling, is becoming passé. You have to be good at the challenger sale. Yeah. The challenger sale is being good as a trainer. So we have to learn a new way to sell. And that's difficult because it's somewhat uncomfortable. So that's number 2. And number 3 is you have to really have a great bundle, because you can't have your service bought over the internet. I mean, people are saying our salespeople will become obsolete, to a computer. And the answer is yes, unless, you really can't outsource the relationship, and you really can't compete with a good bundle because it's just too hard to track. And that's why I'm in the security business and compliance, because we provide the best bundle of solutions. We're looking at new products every day that are coming out, and it's going to be tough to compete with us with our bundle.
We're the best bundle at all times. So.
And the other thing, because if I can summarize these these 3 wisdom you said, first of all, be good at marketing and sales. Second, have a management people on board, so more management type of company, and use partners as a leverage points for doing bundles. So that's, I think, the most critical 3 elements of the business model, how you are changing your business model for 1.0 MSP to MSP 2.0, because the marketing and sales is basically, you need that because people are not shopping around this area, they are not shopping around IT management. Now, you have to teach and be the thought leader. And for security is a great tool to start, because it's by nature, it's getting to the technical guy. In the management side, I completely agree that you need to incorporate like virtual CIOs or more business analysts or people like thinking on business terms. And that's a natural evolution how you are switching. It's not like MSP1 today and tomorrow MSP2. It's like a 2-3 years of graduation.
Yeah, one of the things that just sparked was, one of the questions that comes up a lot is, when we talk to an existing customer and we show them this risk assessment and show them gaps, and we're actually managing the account, like, well, how come you didn't show me this before? You're managing my account. Why don't I have all these risks? And the answer is that with compliance, the bar was raised to here. So we always did this basic hygiene, if you call it, and now the compliance bar is up here. And we explain that we have to raise the bar in order to get you secure and compliant now, and we're the ones to do that. So, we have all kinds of experience doing this, but that's just something that came to mind to, as a trusted advisor.
Yeah, only one question we have from Friedrich from Germany. I normally make the experience that the CEOs are trying to avoid costs. So how can I tell them that they really need something and not just thinking I'm trying to sell him something? And I think we have already answered this question, but just...
Well, I don't know what compliances you have in Germany, but I know there's some compliances out there around power and security and whatnot. But, forget security and forget compliance for a second. Our clients cannot be down for 5 seconds. If they're down for 5 seconds, they just can't function. They're down for a day, they're down for 2 days. They're totally dependent on computers lock, stock, and barrel. So you have to kind of look at the ROI. What's it cost for you to be down in it for a day? Let them tell you. And if they say they can't tell you, say, well, is it $50,000? Is it, give me a number. And there's all these kind of formulas. Like for doctors, it's like $500 an hour. For an accountant, it's $500 an hour. And you could multiply it by the number of accountants. You could start doing these ROIs. And when they start seeing them being down and it costs them $100,000, it's not a big deal to do a $1,000 or $2,000 a month for managed security. So you got to get them to bring the numbers out. And reputation. If you have a financial company and those records get out on the street, I mean, it happens once. It's going to be difficult to recover from. It happens twice, you're out of business. So, we could help you with these techniques that we use, but, there's lots of techniques. People, they say the number one reason that people buy is for risk mitigation. They're worried about their job, they're worried about their reputation, they're worried about their business. You really got to focus on risk mitigation. And you can also leverage ROI or return on investment, but, being down is a big reason to sell security, or not being down. Having a good reputation and maintaining a reputation is a good reason to sell security and compliance. Then you have security gaps, and then you have compliance. There's lots of reasons. That's 4 right there. And you can put numbers around that and a kind of a cost benefit. And that's just one idea that I would have for you. Yeah,
that's a mirror. So exactly, I see this German way because, we have a Hungarian-based MSP and different cultures around. And, a couple of buzzwords is good for the States. It's not working in Europe. That's for sure.
Right. So I'll give you another example.
My observation is that if you are challenging them and if you give a mirror and if you are honest about your intention and if you teach them, then if the decision they have to make, we are not able to make decision on behalf of them.
Right.
They are going to make a decision, but make sure this is an educated decision and that's the right one. We don't know what's the right decision. They can, but we have to educate them and challenge them. Exactly.
So I'll give you an example. We sell the SIM, which is a Security Information Event Manager that runs in all these logs, and it's basically like a alarm system. So if somebody hacks or attacks or whatever, it's like an alarm going off, and it's an immediate response. Well, even if you have a large IT department or no IT department, who can watch this 24/7? So the product we have in place is 24/7 monitoring. It can watch nights and weekends. The other issue is, security staffing is very, very expensive. It's hard to get people. So, by putting these services in, it's a low-cost way of providing these high-level security and compliances that the big companies have. So, I can't give you everything that we're doing and how we're doing it, but if you're interested, let us know, and we'll basically take you through our process, and we'll teach you how to sell security and compliance. I can tell you, security and compliance hourly is 30 to 40% higher. There's no real competition, and you can get a much higher margin on that than you can on managed services. So, or generic kind of IT work. So. Together, you put the managed services, the managed security on top of the managed services, you really got a great solution because it's very tough for somebody else to come in and displace you. It makes you much more sticky. I
think we opened lots of doors because the questions starting to raise now. I'm sorry we are over the time, but what I would suggest that we are going to send a follow-up email after this session, and still will be on the on the 7C3 resources when you can find all the webinars and things like that. I'm going to put Steve accessibility there to make able to make connections. I still want to learn more because it's like it was a couple of eye-opener for me as well. So, Steve, sorry, I have to stop this webinar, but it's like it's just even we warmed up, I guess. So thank you very much. And I think during this
Thank you so
webinars,
much.
we can do another round about, because I'm really curious about how you are managing management guys. It's totally different stuff that you are managing IT type of guys. So I have tons of questions, because you know what, you have 38 people, you was like 6 people company, then you became a 15 people company, then we became a 25. So we have to learn. Sorry, you screwed up probably lots of times. We have to learn to make it smoother. So that's, I would like to prick your brain how you manage your company as well. So
a lot of consultants, and I've built a management team, and it wasn't easy, but it can be done.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for everybody again.
Thank you, and I hope I helped everybody out today. And you know, I really enjoy. I could talk about this endlessly, but it's hopefully it was helpful.
Thank you very much for the audience, and thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
That
Dennis.
was great.
I appreciate your time.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All righty.